I've got you.
Hi.
But you haven't got me.
No.
No, I'm told by my computer that my camera is stuck in another app.
Okay.
And I've absolutely no idea what app it's talking about because I don't normally use it, this particular camera. And it gives me a wonderful code.
Okay.
And I've no idea what to do with it.
Righto.
I can see you. You're looking well.
Thank you. Nice and warm and snuggly in my big jumper. I don't know what to suggest for you in that case then. Would you like a conversation with my IT man? Would that help?
If we can get ourselves unstuck, that might help.
It would help, wouldn't it? Let me go and find him. Hang on.
If he knows.
Right. So, have you got a drink? And any answers you wrote down that you want to have handy?
I might remember.
Okay. Well, welcome, and we're very happy to have you. And
I didn't write too much.
Okay. So we'll start with some easy questions that hopefully you know the answers to anyway. So clearly you are my Uncle Mike, therefore you are my mum's brother. So how many siblings do you have?
Okay. Altogether, I'm second out of 4 children. There is Terry, me, Sandra, and Richard.
And what are the age gaps between you?
Terry to me is about 1.5 years. Me to Sandra is about 2.5 years. And me to Richard is about 8.5 years.
So a reasonable spread.
And yes, we didn't all come along at once.
And where did you grow up?
Right. Now, I start at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Born Trebarris Nursing Home in Liscard.
Oh, okay.
Which is now a set of bijou flats.
Yeah, the maternity home that I was born in is the same. It's now a housing estate. So you are Cornish in your inner soul, but you now live in Scotland.
I do, yeah. Having gone from Liscard, I started then off in the council houses at Bray Shop, a few miles from Callington, close to the Devon border. But I only lived there for a few months, and I have no recollections of being there whatsoever. I have seen photos of me in prams and so on. That's about it. Mm-hmm. At some point, we then moved to Horse Bridge, to a house that is now called, I'm not sure what it was called at the time, it might have been the same, but it is now called West View. Right. Okay. And I lived there until I was the age of 4. And that house I do have recollections of, what I call my early remembrances. I remember the kitchen. I remember the living room. There was the front room, but you didn't go there. No. This is one of these, no, probably went in there on Christmas Day or something. Other than that, no idea about the front room. I do remember the stairs going up to go to bed, and the fact that the house had no electric whatsoever.
Oh, okay.
And one of the items that was used to light myself and Terry off to bed was a little tiny paraffin lamp. which Mum still had when she died,
Mm-hmm.
and I've got it sitting on my windowsill.
Oh, how clever!
So I don't think I was ever entrusted to carry it. I mean, I was sort of 2, 3, and 4, so you don't go around with lamps at that point.
No.
I remember the steps, big wide-ranging steps that went up the back of the hill at the back of the house to the drying green. And from looking at Street View, they are still there.
Oh.
And the other thing I remember about the house is Mum's passion for her wallflowers. Because there's a stone wall at the front of the house by the front door, and she had these wallflowers on the wall, and I still remember those. I remember you used to go and visit Frank Ball and family at Sydenham Damerel, just up, basically 2 miles up the road.
Mm-hmm.
We used to go up and spend some time with them. I think I had chicken pox when I was it seems to be one of these milestone illnesses. Had chicken pox when I was there. And at some point, which I don't remember a great deal of, but I have been told many times by Mum, I had a sty in my eye. And she took me to see this, well, nowadays we'd probably call her an old crone. She was this ancient old lady that did herbal healing and such like. Went into her kitchen. I know I sat on her knee, and she got her black cat, and she rubbed the cat's tail around my eye, along with the incantation of, I wrote it down, trying to remember it. Quail away, go into the cat's tail away. And my mum was told that I would be better in 2 to 3 days' time. And I was.
Okay.
I was highly impressed. I don't think that house exists anymore. It would probably come under what would be a hovel nowadays. But it was literally just down the road from where Frank Ball lived, so they knew each other. I went to school. I started school at Lamerton, but I was only there a few months. Because somewhere later in that year, we then moved to Bray Shop,
Mm-hmm.
again, different house, to a house called Sanley, which is still there. That house, the one thing I really remember of that house was to go to bed, we had to go through your mum's bedroom. Because myself and Terry were in the bedroom, the other side, where your mum's bed. Go up the stairs and turn left, and you're at the front bedroom, which is Mum and Dad's bedroom. Turn right, and you're into your mum's bedroom. Go through that one, and a door on the other side. That was our bedroom. Different. You don't do things like that nowadays.
No, one of the houses I lived in,
I know the
as a
kitchen
student, was like that.
Sorry?
One of the houses I lived in as a student was originally like that, but they'd converted that middle bedroom into like an office, so it didn't really matter if people walked in and out of it.
Mm.
But it was on the way to the bathroom, so you kind of needed to be able to walk through.
I don't remember where the bathroom... Well, we didn't have a bathroom there. There was no bathroom in that house.
Mm.
I got a feeling there was a toilet, but I don't remember where it was. Probably down near the scullery somewhere. Because there was like the scullery was sort of a tin shed affair towards the rear of the house, and it was connected to the house by a tin tunnel. So you could get from the kitchen to the scullery without getting blown away in the winter.
Good idea.
Bath time was in front of the fireplace in the kitchen with a big tin bath, and off it went.
One child after the other in the same bathwater.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the way it went. But then I went from there. I was at school at South Hill. Really upset when I went to South Hill because we went back to slate and chalk up until first couple of months. Then we had paper and pencils.
Ooh.
Yay, we're back.
I will stitch it back together. Nobody will ever know.
And I'm still not there.
No, never mind. So you were talking about the bath and going back to school with paper and pencils.
Yeah, and then we had dippy pens.
Ooh.
Yes, that was going quite up. That was. We were allowed to use dippy pens. It wasn't when I started there. It was quite near the end of my time at South Hill.
So you've moved schools quite a lot. Was Grandad moving jobs a lot? Is that why?
Now, certainly when South Hill the first time and Horsebridge, he was driving a lorry for Wadland Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Wadland Brothers had a big farm just outside Horsebridge, and he would drive the lorry and go off and deliver. They used to tell us about runs to the docks at Avonmouth and so on.
Right.
You consider a lorry back in them days.
Yeah, not motorway driving or anything cushy like that.
No. Then when we were at, I think we moved back to Bray's shop at San Lee because Sandra had come along. Your mum had come along, and we needed a bigger house.
Right.
That would be my interpretation. I was not privy to the conversations at the time.
Well, no, not if there's that small a gap between you.
No, it was when we were there that he changed job and started working as the area representative for Kay's mail order.
Yes.
The Kay's catalogue.
Something of a bailiff type situation job for that, which is quite funny given that you now drive for a living and do monetary things as well, that you've sort of carried on a vague resemblance of his jobs.
Well, for which you got company cars. Now, I do know that the move down to Pinstrays, it had something to do with Auntie May.
Oh, okay.
Though I'm not quite sure what. Whether she was in need of help because of ailing health or... I really don't know.
I remember going to visit Auntie May, but I only have one very vague recollection, and I would have been very small.
And so was she. She was a diminutive lady. But as a hospital matron, I would not wanted to have gotten on the wrong side of her. She was very, very, very particular.
Fair enough.
But yes, when I was 9, we moved down to Blackwater. Then we moved down to Higher Pinstrays. It's where I had my first nice accident. Because the farm cottage that we were in at Higher Pinstrays had been renovated by Dennis Heller, John Heller's father. And all the windows had been changed. Now, at the back of the house, but within the garden boundary, were piles of old stuff that had been chucked out of the house waiting to be disposed of, some of which was windows. And I was told within an inch of my life I was not allowed to go anywhere near it or play on it. So what did I do? I went and I played and I tripped and I fell and I put my hand through a pane of glass. Nice slice up forefinger on the right hand, for which I still got an inch scar today.
Oh, wow.
As a result of that. That was one that, after a little while, Mum thought, I think we'd better go and see the doctor. which we did. It didn't actually require stitches. Well, I'm very sure we didn't have stitches. But I got severely stuck back together, and I did not dare go anywhere near that pile again.
At least you learnt your lesson.
I did a little, yes.
Mm.
The other thing we had there was the water supply. It came from a private well, and the water supply was pumped by a manual pump from the well up into the header tank in the house, for which that was mine and Terry's job most of the time. I would get the morning shift because there would be less water used overnight,
right.
And Terry would get the longer shift because he was bigger than me. So that helped sometimes if we ran out of time, or there had been a lot of water usage and you're getting a bit tired after sort of 10 minutes out there pumping up and down. He would come and help. So that was our nice water supply. Now, the thing we had at Higherpin Strays, you know where Higherpin Strays is?
Yes, I do remember that house.
Yeah. And Blackwater Primary School, where we both went to school, in fact your mum went to school there as well, was down the bottom of the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And for quite a long while, Terry would take his bike to school. So he'd go down the hill, whee, no bother at all. And obviously you can't come up quite as quickly.
No.
So coming out of school, I would race him home. It's where I started running. And I was running up until about 20 years ago.
Good preparation for the military, though.
Oh, yeah. Run it anywhere and everywhere for that.
Mm.
So that was the introduction to that. Sandra was always there. She was what I always used to call, she was trailing around.
Righto.
She either had me to follow or she had Terry to follow. Latterly, she could play mummies because she had Richard to play with, but bigger brothers don't always want younger sisters.
No. As an elder sister.
And we've got this very infamous story of Up a Tree.
She did say she thought you might tell that story.
I don't remember the incident probably as well as I should. It maybe affected her more than me. I know the tree. There was a tree at the bottom of the garden. There was no problem with the tree. And as she was out with me, yes, it is conceivable that she wanted to go up the tree because I was going up the tree. So I would help her up the tree. Unfortunately, neither of us then knew how to get her down again. So I left her.
Did she fall out the tree?
Oh no, I don't think she fell out the tree. I'm fairly sure that Mum will have come and rescued her at some point. But there's a logic behind that. I just don't really remember. I do know. Oh dear, excuse me. I do know that going up the tree, and I mean, I would climb up the tree, no bother. She was always wanting to go up the tree, and at some point, with a little help from somebody like me, she probably did manage to get up the tree, and that was fine.
Mm.
But going up is always easier than coming down.
That is true.
Doing it controlled anyway. What else have I got down here for Pin Strays? The one thing that me and Terry always felt very jealous of Your mum always had her own bedroom. We always had to share.
The perk of being the
Oh
only
dear,
girl.
now it's telling me my internet connection is unstable.
Oh, just keep going. You'll either cut out or you won't.
Just what I need. So, me and Terry, yeah, we used to help Dad dig the garden, cut the grass. There's a very big garden there.
Mm.
And it was a good garden. But when you're digging the whole thing by hand,
Ooh.
it's an absolutely enormous garden. Because you have 3 of you doing a row each. So by the time you've all done one row, 3 rows have been dug.
Yeah.
And you work your way down across. But I mean, it would take all day to dig the garden. No, I was just a little boy. They were all bigger than me. However, I'm sure somebody must have taken pity on me at some point, but you tend not to remember those bits.
Yeah.
I do remember the chicken hut that caught fire.
Oh.
Dad had got himself another, I don't know, 20 or 30 little yellow balls of fluff, just out the egg chickens.
Mm-hmm.
And they were in the chicken coop at the bottom of the garden. And it had a paraffin heater. And somewhere along the lines, I wasn't there, fortunately, somewhere along the lines, it caught fire.
Where were the chickens?
With the little baby chicks inside.
Oh.
One survived.
Oh dear.
Which Mum took into the house and nursed it and cuddled it, and it just followed her around the house. So it became a pet chook. Until one day it wasn't there anymore.
Ah.
And we had chicken for lunch.
Mm.
Nobody ever asked the question.
Yeah, some things it's just safer not to know.
She often had chicken for lunch. Because he had a big run of chicken with, other ones that she did dispatch to have for Sunday lunch and so on. What else did we do there? Well, we did quite a lot, but we'll not call it the exciting things. I was very upset when a cat died. We had a cat, Snowy, to an extent, my cat, and then he disappeared. Now, we had a good friend in the local farm labour, a gentleman called Kenny, who was an evacuee from London or somewhere from during the war. He just stayed on after the war. And him and my mum got on very well. But cat went missing. Then one day, apparently, Kenny came over a bit upset, sort of along the lines of, "Dear Mrs., is this your cat?" Oh. Well, it was a case of what was left of the cat.
Oh dear, where the cat
apparently the cat had been on a hedge, jumped off the hedge, caught its stomach on barbed wire, ripped its stomach completely open, and was hanging on the barbed wire fence until it died.
Oh, yuck.
I was somewhat upset.
I would imagine.
My first experience of such a thing. However, then along came the end of school life. Because you only went to school for 4 years, secondary school.
Yeah.
Unless you were going on to higher education. And neither myself nor Terry managed to get to that accolading point. We did not pass our 11 pluses until we went to secondary modern school. Terry came out with a total qualification count of 0. And the year after him, they brought out the GCSE as what they described as a lower level GCE for those who were at secondary modern schools. And so we had to do a 4-year course in various topics in 2 years. So everything was rushed and pushed.
Yeah.
However, I got 8 passes, so not unhappy with that bit. And I was just waiting to join the Navy.
Was it the Navy in particular you wanted to join then?
Oh yes, yeah. I was dead keen on the Navy. Knew about the boats and lots of things that Grandad had told me about from his naval bits and bobs.
Your Grandad had been in the Navy as well. Yeah.
I was going to join the Navy. My ideal work was going to be as a shipwright artificer. So, a mender of the ship's hull and structure and things.
Oh, well, yes, good, important job.
Especially if you get a leak.
Definitely.
And I went through all of their process in Redruth. And then they said, well, look, we've got a concern. We think you're colourblind.
Did you think that before by then?
It was known at that point,
right. Yeah.
That was sort of an announcement at Blackwater School when the middle school teacher, Mrs. Davis, asked my mum something along the lines of had she noticed something as to why Michael keeps painting trees with green bark and brown leaves. And I think that was the first sort of indication that, whether my mum knew or not, I don't know prior to that. But not to give up, the Navy said, right, we want to do some special tests. And they sent me all the way up to HMS Victory in Portsmouth.
Oh, right.
All by myself on a train.
And how old were you?
15.
Right.
So I went up there, did all these tests, came back, and then I was called back into the recruiting office in Redruth. And the person there said, well, sorry, there is not a job in the Navy we can offer you.
Oh.
You're a colour perception grade 4, and we will only take down to colour perception grade 3. But not to worry, come and speak with this other man across the corridor. And he went and introduced me to a recruiting sergeant for the army. All
in the same building?
Yeah, one side of the corridor and the other.
Yeah.
And he said, well, yeah, there's things that we've got. And what sort of things we? And we had some chats. And eventually, they came back and said, yeah, we agree about the colourblindness. So we can't offer you something like a radio technician to mend the radios and so on, the radar sets, what have you.
Yeah.
But we can offer you a job as a radio telegraphist, sending of Morse code, etc. Don't need colours for that.
No, probably not.
And that's how the army part started. Which I know you asked me about what's it called. I have it down here, and I need to bring it up because there's a bit. Right, the actual title is 11 years, 2 months, and 4 days service to Queen and Country.
Yes, the title of your memoir. That's it. Yes.
Yes. There's an extract from my Army Service of Record book, which tells how wonderful it was. And then why the army? So that bit that I've just told you about. And then the heading is off we go.
Yes, because you've been all over the place, haven't you?
Oh yes, on the 6th of September 1967, I was 15. I was collected from home by the recruiting sergeant and left behind a very tearful mother.
I can imagine.
A brave-faced father, 2 brothers, and a sister who were enthused and confused by the events happening before them.
Mm.
Little did I realise that apart from holidays, I would never again live with my family that I had grown up with. And then off it goes into my army story, of which there are, I've lost track how many pages. There's lots and lots of pages, and I've only done the first 2 years.
So give us a quick précis. Where have you been?
Quick bits of where I've been. Hang on, let's go back to the beginning because we've got the army booklet here.
I know you've been to Norway.
Right. 1st of January to the 15th of March was Norway. The training for that was quite intense. That's the first place, straight out of Harrogate, into this new unit that they just formed for the defence of the northern flanks against the forerunners of Mr. Putin. And they gave us, at the time, lots of very fancy equipment because we were what was called the key party. If you had World War III, we were the first ones out.
Okay.
Bearing in mind up in the north of Norway, because that's where the Russian border is with Norway, an awful lot of the training was how to survive in the snowy bits. Not necessarily how to fight like a Royal Marine. You see all these nice things Royal Marines do, like jumping into frozen lakes and so on. We didn't do any of that, but we had to learn how to build snow holes and igloos and essentially hide. Because if we were out, we would be on top of a hill somewhere working a radio, and the Russian army would just roll past. We would be part of what they would deem their mop-up operation. And as such, we had 2 options. You either surrender or you make life difficult for them behind the enemy lines. And that's what we were trained for. How to make big bangs and have avalanches come down and wipe out trains and that sort of thing.
Oh, wow.
Highly exciting things for somebody who's just turned 16.
That's preciously young, isn't it? That's like 3 years older than my Charlotte. And I can't imagine sending her off anywhere by herself, much less off to go blow up stuff and make big bangs.
After Norway, came home. I spent a lot of time based at Blandford in Dorset. Now, from Blandford, they then put me onto HMS Fearless.
Oh, a boat.
Now, you remember the Navy said they didn't have a job for me? Because I was on the Fearless for a year. Now, the job on the Fearless, you've got the Navy crew, and then you've got a part of the crew of the boat, which is the Royal Marines. Somewhere before me joining, the Royal Marines had decided they did not want these army guys, because there's 12 of us in the signals. They did not want us because our uniform made it look all untidy on the parade ground. There was probably another reason, but nobody ever told us that. You do communications. So 3 of you on each of the 4 watches, and you can just join the radio guys on board, which is fine. But a part of being on the radio guys on board is that everybody in the radio room does a month's turn on the flag deck, which means you are responsible for raising and lowering the appropriate flags of going in and out of countries or passing Royal Yacht Britannia and so on. And you've got to put the right one up.
I can see problems associated with this.
Fortunately, as I learned at a very early stage, the patterns on the flags are all different. Not just the colours, the patterns are different.
It's a coping mechanism. You just learn it.
So
as long
as I got the pattern right, I was doing fine.
Righto.
And as soon as I joined the flag deck, we were sailing from probably Plymouth, because that was our home port. And you've got the what's the man called? Yeoman of signals. He's up there making sure that all is well, and he sees me in my half army, half navy uniform, because we had to wear navy working clothes on board, which is called the navy blues, but we're still allowed to wear our berets and not navy caps. So he took one look at me and said, "Ah, right, you're the new guy for this month, are you? Okay. Have you got your whistle?" Whistle? What whistle? Your bosun's whistle. No, never had one. Have you ever blown one? No. Right, you've got about 10 minutes to learn. Here's my spare. We're going to go out of port, and you have got to salute the Commander-in-Chief's flag as we sail by, and stand us all down again once we have cleared. And here's the microphone for the ship's tannoy system. You've got to call the whole ship to attention.
The power.
My legs were like jelly. And he had me in this little corner out of the wind. I mean, the signal itself is quite easy. Basically, take notice, attention, if you like. It's just one note. That one's quite easy. But then you've got to press the microphone, and now you're going to be speaking to everybody on the upper deck of the ship. And you've got all hands on the upper deck, face to port and salute. Commander-in-Chief, Devonport. When you blow the whistle and everybody's there all standing nicely to attention, saluting if they've got the appropriate rank and so on. Then when you think your flag at the rear end is cleared, you go, so it's a two-tone, and you just give carry on. And there's somebody over in the Commander-in-Chief's side, and if he thinks you've called the carry on too soon, the captain of the boat will get a message. Well, they were hot on that one. Once you've done it once, it became quite not bad after that. I did on one occasion do it for the Royal Yacht Britannia. Didn't have royalty on board, but that was in the Minch. Because on Fearless, we came out, we went to Portland. It had been on a refit. We went to Portland. We did our thing in Portland, making sure everything on the boat was working as it should do. Then you go sailing off around the UK to a home waters test for the boat. Then we went over to Kiel and Hamburg on it was a NATO something or other. Back to ports. Every time you go back to not Portsmouth, back to Devonport. And then we were going off on a goodwill tour of the Caribbean islands,
Nice.
the southern and eastern American seaboard for 4 months. And my expression on that one was, Jolly Jack was mighty jolly. Well looking for it. He had this nicely painted ship, and it was everything going fine, great. We got halfway across the Atlantic and the trip got cancelled.
Oh.
Which essentially in the Navy speak was, Jolly Jack had a mighty mump on. He was mumping around all over the place. We didn't come back to Portsmouth, to Devonport. We went to Gibraltar. There had been a political unpleasantness carrying on in Malta. The president, a gentleman by the name of Dom Mintoff, had come to power as a socialist wonder boy for Malta, and he'd thrown every foreign power out of Malta. And within weeks of throwing everybody out, his economy nosedived.
Unsurprisingly.
Yeah, unsurprisingly. So rather hurriedly, they renegotiated between the Americans, the British, there was a third one, I don't remember who, as to who they would let back in. But they were only going to let one foreign power back in to have bases. Anyway, eventually the British were left back in. But by now you had what nowadays you would call terrorists, and they were threatening all sorts of nasties if the British came back again. So they didn't want to fly anybody in, because if they flew somebody in and there was all sorts of problems, they'd have to worry about how to get them out.
Yeah.
So they wanted to put in a big ship with lots of people on board and the ability to get out if something goes wrong. The 2 aircraft carriers were out in the Far East on exercise, being the biggest ships. Next size down was the Bulwark and Albion. They were both out in the same exercise in the Far East. Next size ship down was the Fearless and Bulwark. The Bulwark had just gone into dry dock for refit. So Fearless was only on, it wasn't on active service, it was only on a publicity run. So we got turned around and sent into Malta. And we were there, a couple of weeks we were there. We actually had a super time. The people were really happy to see somebody come with some money to spend.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Really happy. No incidences at all. And after that, they started to fly people in, and we hung around probably an extra 3 or 4 days just to make sure nothing untoward was happening. Once all looked well, that was it. They sent us back to Gibraltar. Once we're back in Gibraltar, right, we're not going to send you home. There's a big NATO exercise coming up for the Mediterranean, the joint NATO Mediterranean Fleet. And you can take part in that now. And because you command structure all integral to the building of the ship, you're going to be the flagship of the fleet.
Oh, righto.
Ticked off the Americans, no bother. But and so off we went. We went to Cyprus, we went to Crete, we went to Italy, we went to Turkey. A couple of the places we went to twice. You know, and we had a cracking time all the way through. We got shot at in Istanbul because the Queen was about to go and do a visit to Cyprus. This is before Cyprus became divided. And with the Queen going, she was taking Prince Philip. Well, Prince Philip is Greek.
Yeah.
The Turkish Cypriots did not want him in their country.
Yeah. I can imagine.
So they were making noises, but it didn't amount to a great deal. And we had the windscreen shot out of our taxi in Istanbul, we think for the same reason. They were intimidating rather than hurting. We nearly got blown up in Cyprus, but the guys who were coming to plant the limpet mines, once their inflatable dinghy was shot full of holes, they swam off, and the limpet mines went to the bottom of the sea until we recovered them.
Oh.
But if they had got through, there might have been a bit of a big bang at that point. And then we had to come home, and coming home was most interesting. Because you come home from the Med, it was November. The Bulwark had the Royal Marine Band on board, and they were due to do the Remembrance Day parade in Gibraltar.
Mm-hmm.
They left, where were we, Sardinia, about 6 hours before we did, because everything on their boat loads by helicopters. Most of ours load by landing craft, so we just take longer to load. And then we set sail, and not long after we had set sail, signal came in from the Bulwark. Could you, any chance you can get yourselves to Gibraltar to do the Remembrance Day parade? Because we also had a Royal Marine Band on board. And the reason for that was the Bulwark had just hit a westerly gale force 10 and was taking waves over the flight deck, which makes an aircraft carrier type ship very unstable.
Yeah, I would imagine.
So they had to power back. But the Fearless doesn't have that problem. And the captain decided we were going to try. So we just went full steam ahead into a westerly gale. And it was a very interesting 2 days. We lost bits of the boat, just disappeared.
Oh dear.
Fell into the Ogden and gone. But we made it. And you should have seen the band on parade. Man, they were the greenest band you ever saw. Well, they were. The amount of seasickness on that particular bit didn't affect me. But it did affect them. We came back from there. Not long after that, that was me off the Fearless. A little bit more time at Blandford. Then I went to Germany for 10 months, where officially I was working in an underground communication centre. Most of the time I was doing cross-country running and athletics, training the unit team for a big athletics competition. My only claim to fame, during that summer, I represented Germany in the Benelux Countries International in Luxembourg, where I ran the 800 metres. Came second. Didn't win, but came second.
Well, very good.
Hello.
Hello. It's because they only let us have 40 minutes at any one time, unless we upgrade, which we don't really want to do because we don't use Zoom very much. So how did you end up in Scotland, and where did you meet Auntie Anne?
Well, from Germany, this leads into the same thing. From Germany, a position became available with what was called an Army Youth Team, which was public relations for the Army, working with the youth in a given geographical area. Mm-hmm. I applied for 80 Army Youth Team. Another gentleman within the Corps of Signals applied for, mine was down in Dumfries, by the way. Mm-hmm. Another gentleman applied for 81 Army Youth Team in Inverness. So I got posted to Inverness, he got posted to Dumfries.
Oh.
Not Army style. Mm. That got me going up here in the youth team, which was, to an extent, it was a dream posting. You were doing the things and getting paid for that you would quite happily do without getting paid for.
Well, that's nice.
So it was great.
Mm.
It was. And a whole winter skiing.
Well, it's all right for some.
Nice thing to do.
Yeah.
Now, the job itself was working with youth clubs, scouts, cadets, boys brigade, you name it, any youth group, including schools, throughout the whole of the Highlands. Now, at that time, the biggest single youth club with the biggest membership was the Nairn Community Centre. They had quite a large following. And so they've got more people, so they got a little bit more of our time. They weren't very far away either, so that was quite useful. And we would do various activities for them, between skiing and skating and 10-pin bowling, as many things as we could come up with.
Mm.
At that time, Anne was the secretary to the centre organiser.
Right.
And so she was always around when we were there. And that's how the two of us got together.
Fair enough.
That's how I got to Scotland.
So that poor fellow who had to go to Dumfries might have married Auntie Anne by mistake if the army had sent the right people to the right place.
There, you never know.
I guess God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, wasn't it? His wonders to perform. Yes.
Something like that.
But that job was a good one. I mean, I could fill over an hour with just stories of what I did in the army youth team.
Although as a fairly active man all your life, and you said until recently you were running till 20 years ago, how have you found the ageing process? Because presumably it's harder on an active person than a more office-based sedentary person.
I wrote a comment down on that particular one. What does it do? It slows you down.
Mm.
The mind says, "Yay, go!" And the body says, "What? No." Don't do that. It's silly. So you've got to get a balance between the two.
Fair enough. So, like my own parents, because you got married about a fortnight before them, you are about to celebrate your golden wedding, aren't you?
Yes, August 10th.
Do you have any secrets to a long marriage? Presumably coming out of the army would have been a useful thing for your marriage.
Well, the first job I was doing after we got married, the first few months I was still in the youth team. Mm-hmm. I was here, but I was never here. The next job, they sent me down to Gosport, where I was a lot of the time a ship's radio officer on a landing craft. And that entailed normally sailing on a Thursday, Portsmouth to Southampton, Southampton to Antwerp, Antwerp to Southampton, Southampton back to Portsmouth. Be home again late Monday, early Tuesday, depending on conditions. Mm-hmm. And then you sail again on Friday morning for the next one, so you weren't always there. But it's when you get to Antwerp and they say, "Oh, by the way, divert to," and you could be diverted. I went to Kiel, we went to Hamburg, pick up a cargo there, drop it at Chatham, then back into Antwerp, get our containers, bring back to Southampton. But by now it's now Friday, and so we've got to take the next lot of containers back to Antwerp again. It was a little bit rough, that bit, introduction to married.
Yeah.
After that, I went to Blandford Camp, working on a very large computer system. At the time, it was the largest single-user mainframe system in the country. And it was just shift work. You were either on during the day or you're on in the evening. It's only me and another guy. And that was good. That was really good. You're home every night.
Was Auntie Anne on base with you as well, or did she stay somewhere else?
Sorry?
Did she live in married quarters on your base?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Computer centre at the top of the hill and the married quarters at the bottom of the hill, just down the bottom of the path. About 150 yards away. Not really excessive. But it was, I had a 3-year posting there. After 2 years, which was the end of my signed up for time, they came to me and made me an offer. If I if I like to sign on for a further 3 years, I get my further year at Blandford. And then after that, they were intending to post me to 22 Signal Regiment in Germany. An infamous regiment of much repute for the wrong reasons.
Oh dear.
Number one, for the married people there, the divorce rate was 98%.
Yeah, that's not good, is it?
You were never there. You were either out on exercise, you were doing a 3-month tour of Northern Ireland, you were on fire picket or guard duty at the camp. Essentially, you had 6 weeks home with a wife. But you had 6 weeks leave, and that's when you had it. So, no, I said no. I made them a counter-offer. The counter-offer being the computer that I'm currently working is due to be replaced in 3 years' time. I'm due to be here for 1 year. If you extend my tour by 2 years, so I'm here for the full 3 years up to the end of the life of the computer, I will happily sign on for 3. Bearing in mind, I am the only person in the army qualified to run this computer. And they said no.
But really, you had them over a barrel.
Yeah, we train you to do a particular type of communication job. And in the last 9 years, you haven't done it. Which also would have meant if I'd gone to Germany, I would be vying for promotion from corporal to sergeant against people who had done nothing but field communications for the last 9 years, which didn't seem a good prospect at all. So, no. That was it. Came out. I had a job lined up. Field sales for the company that eventually became Screwfix Direct.
Oh, okay.
And the week before I left the army, got a letter from them saying they had done a corporate review and they were changing their policies and they no longer had a job for me.
Oh.
Well, thank you very much. So I'm out anyway, but I haven't got a job to do. But we still came up here. I drove taxis for a couple of months, applying for jobs all over the place. One of my interviews was for the finance company in Inverness. What did I know about finance? Absolutely nothing. But never mind. I could do sums. And I had about a 2-hour interview with the branch manager in Inverness. We spent 15 minutes or so talking about the job and the company.
Yeah.
He was a major in the Territorial Army. Guess what we spoke about for the other hour and 3/4?
The seaside.
And right up until they closed the office down in Inverness after 12 years, the two of us worked together superbly well. He stayed as a manager. I went from the rep to the office manager to the assistant manager to the office manager as they shunted things around. But the two of us just worked really, really well together. I have stories about him, but well, you need about a 5-hour session to get through that one.
Yeah. And at the moment, we're working in 40-minute blocks because it only lets us have that before it cuts back out.
Yes.
So, what do you do now, and how did you get to where you are now?
Right. What do I do now? I do two things. To an extent, I do two things. I'm self-employed.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start with that one. When the office closed, again, corporate reshuffle, and at one point the company had 278 branches around the country.
Wow.
Today, they have one head office. That is it.
Oh, righto.
You'll still see the signs in the garage showrooms for Black Horse Finance. That's the job name rolled on 40 years. But anyway, they closed down. I had a number of finance companies approach me saying, oh yeah, we need reps up in that part of the world, but we're just going through reviews just now. We'll be in touch in a month or so. Well, I've just been through one review. I know exactly what's going to come out of this, and it's not going to be a job. And as nobody else seemed to want me, I decided to go into the world of debt collection, because there was precious little up here by way of debt collectors.
Mm-hmm. And there's more to it, isn't there, than what you think of as sort of knocking on the door, bailiff, coming to take all your furniture away and stuff like that.
Oh no, that's bailiffs and sheriff officers. This is knocking on the door and trying to be nice to encourage you to part company with some money.
Right.
The nice way of doing it. I was only doing that for, I don't know, a year or so. And just had a phone call out of the blue. A company had been set up in England to assist banks who are having difficulty with their customers with mortgages. Mm-hmm. Because computers were supposed to be solving all the problems, and so virtually all the banks disposed of their external staff and the directors that controlled them.
Right.
Then they found out that there's all these people that aren't speaking to us at all. They won't speak on the phone. They won't answer a letter. We've no idea what's happening. Mm. So they approached one of their laid off directors and said, look, do you want to set up a company and we'll give you the work to go out and visit these people and see what problems they've got and how it can be resolved. He did that down in Oxfordshire somewhere, I think. And the company grew, and eventually they needed somebody up in Scotland.
Right.
Well, he spoke to a manager of one of the collection companies that he knew from old. He said, oh, look, there's this guy up by Inverness, Mike House. Go give him a phone. And it was, oh, okay. Had a chat with him. Yeah, if you can go out, visit these people, write up a report, then we'll pay you for each report. And every agent we've got covers roughly 25 to 30 mile radius from where they live. That's fine. And it was only a few months. Once you got into it, it was a case of, well, look, we've got this one up at Tain, which is sort of 50 miles away. Would you do it if we pay you some extra? And then we've got this one out on Skye, which is 120 miles away. Would you do that if we pay you some extra? And and it grew. Then there was another company, same sort of thing came along. And because these guys know each other, they would, well, so-and-so gave me your name. Well, one thing, have you got scope to do some work for us? And it got to the point that we were, I call it the we, because at some point, somewhere along the line, so David was old enough and he just sort of joined me. We just covered the whole of the north of Scotland. So if anybody almost any company wanted something done in the north of Scotland, they just came to us. It was a nice position to be in.
It is. And you must know the geography incredibly well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the way I describe it is we get paid to drive to some of the places that other people pay to go to see.
Yeah. It's not bad, is it?
Not quite as brisk now as it was before COVID. Most of them are still saying, oh, we don't really want to pay you to travel there. We want you to do the job, but we don't want to pay you to go there. No, not a problem. You work out when you're happy to pay, and then we'll go. Until then, we won't. Which then brings me to my other job, which started, about 18 months ago. Because during COVID, you're not allowed to visit anybody.
Yeah.
So we didn't. So we got no income whatsoever at all. Then after COVID, we'll just get everything back up and running. And instead of getting 10 to 15 cases coming through in a week, we were getting 4 in a month. 1 a week.
Mm.
Which is not really quite enough. So, right, let us see about a little something else. So I went a little hunting. Yeah, I mean, I'm hitting 70 at that point. So,
you're not planning on retiring anytime soon, then?
No, well, I tried that. It was called lockdown. Didn't like it. However, I was accepted just to do backroom work for a company that does it's the agency, I suppose, really, for Westminster City Council Traffic Department.
That seems a long way to farm it out.
Sorry?
It seems a long way to farm it out, to send it all the way to Scotland.
Yeah, I mean, they're farming it out from Westminster to a company that's based in Sheffield, and yet we do it in Inverness. But I can plug myself in here, and it'll just pop up on my screen here, sitting on my desk. Not sure how long keep it going, to be fair. In the good old days, it's what came under call centre work. Yeah. Except there's no phones involved. I only do emails. But it's steady and gives me something useful to do.
Yeah, and you clearly have no plans to retire. So what do you do in your free time that isn't work?
When it's not work, as Anne will tell you, it's things to do with the Boys Brigade.
So you are a Boys Brigade man and boy, aren't you, really? Would that be fair?
I can say I joined at the age of, I don't know, either 13 or 14. Mm-hmm. At the Mount Hawk platoon of the Camborne Company, I think it was. Both myself and Terry were there. I then got brought back into it because David was doing one of his expedition badges, and the guy who was organising it got called back to work in Aberdeen, and they didn't have anybody to supervise these guys going out on an expedition.
Right.
So could I do it? And that's when David was 14, thereabouts.
So you've had a big gap between being a boy.
I'd had a bit of a gap. Yeah, I've been playing with the big boys in between. Well, since going back to do that with David's group, I'm still there.
Yeah.
The company captain has retired. I'm effectively running things just now. But I am not the company captain.
Oh, okay.
I keep standing back and saying, we need to appoint a company captain who's preferably 1 or 2 years younger than me.
Well, yes, there are problems associated with that, I suppose, aren't there? Yes.
But it could do with some younger input, shall we say. As it is, we brought our numbers back again, so we're not unhappy.
Did you lose a lot during COVID?
After COVID, we started back. We had 4 children.
Oh, wow.
Right now, we've got 26. So we've increased. But you've got to get adult staff to cover all the children that you get. So we've managed to do that as well. We've got some adult staff now as well. So getting there. Just need a man at the top to take over and let me go.
Yeah. How do you think your work with the Boys Brigades affected how you parent and grandparent?
Oh, no, I gave that a little thought. And I actually wrote something down.
It presumably means you are an active, outdoorsy kind of granddad, that some children wouldn't have actually had a granddad like that.
Oh, I do get asked about that every now and then. The expression that it keeps you young keeps you tired.
Yes, I would imagine.
You learn that the children are, if you treat them right, most of the time they will do what it is that you're trying to do. Whether it's games or sit down and tell them a Bible story or whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah.
We like to do camps during the summer months. Not done very much since COVID, and with some of the young ones that we've got, we're not allowed to take them out under canvas. Primary school 1, 2 and 3, you're not allowed to have out under canvas overnight. So we've modified the camp last year. We developed it, we tried it. So we take the older ones to the camp, which is only 2 miles out of there. We used to have a place up at Ullapool, but that got closed down. So now we've got a place just on the riverbanks, I'd say about 2 miles out of the town, where the older ones are camping, but we bring the younger ones out purely for the day experience.
Right, yeah. Get them used to it.
Yeah, and you have a little program for them to do things and join in. And yes, children. The biggest problem I find with a lot of the children is that they don't like doing things. If it doesn't involve sitting down and looking at something black, square, and in front of them, they get very, Once you actually get them out to do it,
yeah, is it all right then?
It's not too bad. And it goes, several years ago, the camp was actually up in Ullapool, where, okay guys, right, who's got a mobile phone? Right, you give those to us. Who's got an iPod? And tell how long ago it was when people had iPods. Who's got an iPod? Yep, right, and give those to us. Anybody got a radio? No. Any other electric devices? Right. We'll look after these in the boot of my car until you go home. But what we're going to do? Well, we're going to start by talking to each other. And you should have seen them. What? Talk to each other. They were struggling. Absolutely struggling. But they got there. They didn't get their devices back. Because I don't do camps with mobile phones. The only thing electric you're allowed is a torch.
Yes.
And that's only because I won't let you have a candle.
Well, no, back to paraffin lamps and crawling around
Yes.
small people in the dark's not ideal, is it? No.
Not really, no.
No. Okay, my final question then is, given that you have been to a lot of places that other people like to go on holiday, the Caribbean and Malta and Gibraltar and all the rest of it.
I never made the Caribbean. I only got halfway.
Well, all right then. Where would you go if money was no object and I could whisk you somewhere? Where would you go?
I'd probably take a camper van and do the big long cruise all around USA and Canada.
Can I come? That's exactly what I want to do. A very large and very luxurious RV. I used to think I could do it on the back of a Harley, but I'm only 5'2", so I don't think I could hold a Harley up.
Well, the back of a Harley would be okay if somebody's in front holding it.
Yeah, somebody else would have to drive it.
Tell Nick what he's got to look forward to.
Yeah. Make his legs grow a bit.
Yay! Yes. But no, don't really want to go to Australia. It would be interesting, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go to Russia or South America. There's places there that I would like to go, but no. I'll stick with people that speak nearly the language I do.
Yes, that's kind of how I feel about it. It's nearly the same language as me, so that's better than having to go somewhere. A friend of mine, when I interviewed him, he said he wants to go to Japan. I'm like, no, that really hadn't crossed my mind as a place I'd like to go. But Charlotte quite wants to go, which is weird. I don't know where she gets the idea to go to Japan from.
Oh, yes.
It's very,
yes,
very foreign, I would imagine.
It's an interesting place. But,
yeah. But very, very different to home, which I guess is the point of travel, isn't it?
Yes. And I still remember our first RV experience in the USA. Because we did a big RV trip the first time we ever went out there.
Okay.
Just after I got made redundant. And we went from Florida right up to Buffalo.
Oh, nice.
All the way up and then back down to New York. And everywhere you went, it was, okay, where are you from? No, you can't say near. Nobody's ever heard of near.
No.
And we're by Inverness. And, by your accent, you're not American.
Yeah.
Oh, gee, is that Inverness, Scotland, England?
Yeah. Bless them. No.
And I do remember
Scotland.
Mary Lou.
Mary Lou.
Our first campsite.
Mm-hmm.
And you go in and the young lady asks, okay, what hookups do you want? What? I don't know. Well, do you want small electric or big electric? I don't know. What's the difference? Apparently, small electric runs everything in your camper except the air conditioning. The big electric runs the air conditioning as well.
Righto. These
You've
things
got
are
the
a
air
learning
conditioning
curve,
with
I
the
guess.
engine, then you've got a big air conditioning unit on the roof as well. And I didn't know where to plug this thing in. So she screamed out for Mary Lou. This is a 12-year-old girl. Just her daughter, I'm assuming. And she showed us where to park and how to plug things in. You plug in your water, you plug in your electric, you plug in your sewage. So everything's connected to the mains. In the morning, you just unplug and off you go.
Lovely. Well, we have 10 minutes left on this 40-minute increment. Is there anything else you would like to tell me in less than 10 minutes?
Less than 10 minutes. Well, let me tell you about the Richard George Masters. Richard George Masters was a research vessel out of the Underwater Weapons Research Establishment at Farnborough, and was used by the scientists there who developed the underwater listening gear and so on. And when they've got to a certain point, they would go down to New Haven and take their boat, the Richard George Masters, which was an ex-RAF minesweeper. Give that a little thought, see how you get on with it. Why did the RAF have minesweepers? It's because the RAF used to have Sunderland flying boats. And it's to clear the mines from where they're going to come into land. So that's why they have that. They would radio or phone or whatever to the camp at Gosport. Could they have a radio operator for the week because they're going to take the boat out? And so a couple of times I'd be the one nominated, jump on the train, up you go to New Haven, onto the boat, and first couple of trips were just across to Channel Islands, and it's always, as soon as that little boat stuck its nose out, shadowed by Russian spy trawlers.
Oh.
Because they knew what the boat was involved in.
Mm.
It's highly secret stuff, which, we were some more than 10 years ahead of the Russians at that particular point. And if they could get our gear, they'd want it.
Mm.
But they'd go out, they'd check it over the side, and we'd steam off for a couple of miles, bobbing around in the water. The captain would always look around the corner of the bridge and tell, it's not a big boat, tell me, right, on the radar plot, that's us he always told me that's us in the middle.
Okay.
Every single time, that's us in the middle. That ping there is the boy we've just put out there. Keep an eye on that one. That ping over there is that Russian boat over there. Keep an eye on that one. We need to be closer to the boy than he is. And I'm just working the radios. Every so often you look at it and, that's fine, that's fine. Then you just be bobbing around, all the sailors on board, or just put their fishing lines over the side, because it's the scientists in the back who are playing with their oscilloscopes and things.
Yeah.
And once they got things done just right, back to New Haven, and the following week they go down to the Scilly Isles. And because just off the Scilly Isles, there's a deep water trench where they can do real serious testing of this kit. Mm-hmm. And when they went down there, they had a submarine running up and down that they could ping pings off of and so on, listen to it. Mm. And it was one where, again, we're in the middle. And that's a Russian, that's a Russian boat over there. And it started off, this particular one, we were about 5 miles off. The Russian boat was 7 or 8 miles. You just keep looking, sure that Russian boat's moved. So, Captain. And he comes now and says, oh yeah, right, he's only 6 miles off now. He would go and speak to the scientists in the back. Permission to start the engines. So, yeah, okay, you can start the engines. So we got the engines going. The Russian boat is still gentlying its way along, just a couple of knots, nothing really fast. Heading gently in the direction where the buoy is. And he's, right, okay, yeah, match speed. So we're matching speed with them. Next thing we got was put the Sea Rider over the side. That's one of these rigid hull things with a big rubber bit around the top, skims over the water. Twin Johnson 500s on the back, this thing. And it's sitting there, bouncing along beside us. And we've got, I don't know, still couple of miles, 2 to 3 miles from the buoy. And all of a sudden, this Russian boat went down at the stern, up at the front, and it was motoring. And so we had to motor, but it was going faster than we were. Mm. And all you had was the captain stuck his head over the bridge wing. Didn't have walkie-talkies on this. You shout, Sea Rider, away! And the guy just pulled back on the lever. He went like a pebble. You know when you skim a pebble?
Yeah.
Oh, but that's how it went. Off it went. Meanwhile, the Russian trawler has now got a big trawl arm coming out of the side with a whopping great net on it. Its intention is to scoop up the gear. Sea Rider was going to get there first, no bother with that, and that thing would go over 50 knots. All of a sudden, the scientist, we called him Pugwash, he had patch over one eye. He came in, which radio's on the submarine? Which radio's on the submarine? So that one. Surface! Now! Surface! And he brought, he must have been working on his pings, but he knew where the submarine was. He brought the submarine bang up between the buoy and the Russian boat. And the Russian boat either had to crawl over our submarine or veer off. Either way, it wasn't going to get the gear. No.
But the surprise element, I guess, is the bit in particular, isn't it? If you suddenly just get, pew, submarine.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, they veered off. They went off about 7 miles and just stopped and bobbed in the water and watched us. Oh. We'd had enough excitement one day. We went home into St Mary's, isn't it?
Yes, on the Isles of Scilly.
Yeah. We went into St Mary's, sold the sharks that we had caught to a local pub,
and a jolly good evening was had by all, I suspect.
And that's my little story of the Richard George Masters.
And you made it with 1 minute 42 seconds remaining, so well done.
See, just as well I didn't pick a longer one.
Well, thank you very much for joining us and regaling us tales of your time in the army, amongst many other things. I suspect you could have gone on for hours and hours more, really, couldn't you?
It has been said, yes.
Well, thank you very much. I will stop it here and say good night.
Thank you, and good night.
Good night. See you again in person soon at some point.
Hey!
Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.